So for this Yanfei guide, I'm gonna go over her weapon rankings and her artifacts as usual, but more importantly I'll talk about her combos and her rotation, together with some special tips on her constellations, and then finally her pros and cons. So the Skyward Atlas and the Lost Prayer is currently tied at number 1, and the Memory of Dust is second only because you need a shield to compete with the Skyward or the Lost Prayer. So here's the table, and you can see from the damage calculation they are all pretty similar, except that the Memory of Dust will require a shield to get this number. So moving on to the best 4-star weapons, the best one will be the Royal Grimoire, and this is mainly because it has the highest base attack for a 4-star weapon, while also providing attack and crit rate. And not only that, it pairs perfectly with her second Ascension talent, which deals an additional 80% attack damage when she crits with a charge attack. The second best weapon would be the Mappa Mare, and luckily for you this is actually craftable, so you can pretty much reach refinement rank 5 if you wanted to, I guess. And the reason why this is like the second best weapon is because it not only has the highest base attack for a 4-star weapon, it also provides elemental mastery, which is always good on pyro units, because of melt, and then it also gives you an additional damage bonus, which is always nice. Some unconventional weapons for Yanfei would be the Witsif, and I know that you would probably see some crazy damage with the Witsif, like in future I guess, but the fact is that it doesn't really do great sustained DPS, and because the buff is only like 10 seconds and the cooldown is like 30 seconds. Another weapon that would be a decent option would be the Sacrificial Fragments at rank 4, I mean Refinement 4, because you get a free reset for every alternating cast of her skill. As for her best artifact set, it would be the Crimson 4 piece, and it actually beats the Wanderer's Troop overall, and you'll see why when I talk about her rotation. Okay, so to maximize her damage, you want to use Q into a charge attack, into an E, into another charge attack, followed by 2 autos, then 1 charge attack, and then you just repeat 2 autos into another charge attack. So the reason why you only need to use 2 autos is because of her burst, providing you 1 seal every second. So after figuring out her skill rotation, I was then able to compute out the skill multipliers for each part of the rotation. So if you can see from this table right here, the charge attack actually does less than half of the total damage that you do in the first 5 seconds, and that's kind of why the Crimson 4 piece beats the Wanderer's Troop overall, because your Wanderer's Troop is only gonna give you an additional 35% bonus damage on your charge attack, but then the charge attack is actually just a fraction. I mean, it is a significant fraction of the total damage done, but it's not entirely the best if you go for the Wanderer's Troop. So just quickly explaining her constellations, the C1 is an absolute must-have because it decreases her stamina consumption per seal from 15% to 25%. And her C2 is actually just a nice crit buff, I mean against enemies below 50% health. And then her C4 gives a decent shield, and the main purpose of it is not just to reduce the damage, but it's also to stop you from getting interrupted during your rotation or your damaging burst. Lastly, you have a C6. Not only does it increase your overall damage by a ton, it also makes it so that your rotation consumes no stamina with 4 seals. This is because of C1 decreasing your stamina consumption per seal from 15% to 25%. So 25% times 4 seals is 100% decrease on your stamina consumption. So now I'll talk about whether you should build her or not, and I think it mainly depends on whether you have a 5-star pyro DPS, and if you don't, then it's almost guaranteed that you'll benefit, from building her up, because pyro is kind of like the connecting factor against cryo enemies, because you wouldn't really use hydro to fight cryo in general, and electro just does way lesser damage than pyro characters when fighting cryo. As for her pros and cons, she is actually potentially the strongest 4-star DPS because of Melt and Vaporize, and actually even Swirl, but this also means that if you have Klee or Diluc, then there is not many reasons to build her. As for her cons, she does need 80 energy to cast her burst, and what this means is that you'll need additional pyro units in your team to supply the extra energy for Yanfei to manage her DPS. So just like Klee, another con is that she uses stamina. If you don't have her C6, it can be tough in terms of managing your stamina, especially in hard fights when you need to dodge, and this is also why I highly encourage to get her C1. So it goes without saying that you need to make use of melt or vaporize, and this also means that you have to plan your rotation or your skill sequence because that's going to be the key to maximize her damage. Alright, so that's all I have for this video, and if you found it useful, do hit the like and subscribe to support the channel, and I'll see you next time.